Ladies and gentlemen, you're rocking with a GOAT. Ken Dow giving you motivation for growth. 2 toes down, he keep it realer than most. He do it for the culture, that's always the goal. This is Strategic Moves with Ken Dow. This is Strategic Moves with Ken Dow.
You're tuned in to another episode of Strategic Moves. I'm your host, Ken Dow. And today we're going to talk a little bit about Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority. Our guest today is no other than the director of, we know it as CMHA, so we're going to call it CMHA. I have Jeffery Patterson here today. So everybody, I want to introduce and welcome Jeffery Patterson to the show.
Hi, I'm Jeff Patterson. At CMHA, we've been enriching lives in the community since 1933. We do that because at CMHA, we care.
Seasons for commitments, whether you're rich or poor, to be accountable, that's what we're striving for. We respect you, it stands for excellence, for your safety, care about you. Your living, we care. It's all about giving, we care. Yeah. And we care for our community. Want you to know that we care. Cause we want you to know that we care.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Oh, thanks for coming out. And I know Jeffery Patterson from back in high school, and me and him actually went to school together. And Jeff, we went to Lincoln West High School.
Yes, sir.
I was in the class of 87 when we came out. So what class were you in?
85.
85. So you were a couple of years older than me when I got there. And the reason why I remember you is that you were on the track team, I believe.
Yes.
And did you go with Tim Goler as well?
Yeah, Tim was there. There was a lot of us. He was 84 and I was 85.
So Tim you guys all were on the track team together and that kind of thing. And it was 2 parts of that about Lincoln West. And then we're going to go back to you. It was that if you play sports, you had to ride the late bus coming home. So I think it was more so I remember you on the late bus because you lived in a different part of Glenville. What part of Glenville you grew up?
I lived off of Parkwood near 105.
Near 105. Yeah, I grew up on Kempton off of 105. So I was in that area. So tell me about growing up in Glenville.
I enjoyed it. It's a different time. We had good people. As you're going, Lincoln West is not in the Glenville area. So
Correct.
We were desegregated and bussed over to the west side, which was an adjustment, but it gave us the opportunity, I think, to learn a lot different people, a lot of different experiences. And it made the kids that went there a little bit closer because we had that 25 minute bus ride every day, both ways to get to know each other a lot. So met a lot of great people, still talk to a lot of my good friends. And so it was a good experience.
So you grew up there, your mom, dad?
My mom passed away when I was 6. So my dad raised me and my sister. So we grew up in that area pretty much the whole time, went to Mount Union College, went up there, ran track and cross country there. And graduated and came back and just started working.
Union was a good school. My son, one of the schools he looked at to go play football when he was getting out of high school, and we went there, and I liked the experience we had there.
Yeah, it was a small campus, but it was cool. Got a chance to, again, meet a lot of different people, learn. It was far enough from home to be away, but close enough to home to be able to get back.
Exactly. It's what is like
about an hour, 15 minutes, something like that.
Yep. Yeah, and it was a nice campus. I really enjoyed there. He ended up going to Morehouse for a little while, but
that's a good one right there.
That was a good one too. But we did go there and we enjoyed it. And then what you do after Mount Union?
Well, I came back, started working as an intern for the city of Cleveland,
under
Voinovich. And it was interesting because I had worked in a summer program, kids with the yellow shirts, the snipe workers.
Yeah.
I'd done that for a couple years while I was in college. Came back, wanted to be an intern. Had someone was working in City Hall, came up to me and I told them that I wanted to try to get into being an internship. She told me you have to come back and apply in December. You can't come get no job, apply for a job that starts in June. So I came in the summer before I graduated, winter before I graduated, put in an application, went through the process, and was fortunate enough to be chosen for the program. And after that, I just was able to get some good opportunities and grow and learn a lot, and worked in human resources, labor relations, worked at the airport, Department of Public Utilities. And then I came down to City Hall. And then I was selected and appointed by Mayor White to be the Director of Personnel and Human Resources for the city.
How did that happen? How was that process?
But it was interesting because I was able to work, and I had been the city's labor relations manager for about 3 or 4 years. The personnel director at that time had left. And the mayor knew that I had worked in personnel and offered me the opportunity. And I accepted. And it was just one of those things where you get a chance to be in an environment where you got a mixture of people who are coming into the workforce, but you had a mixture of a lot of wise veterans who had been in the workforce for a while, who helped guide you to not, make too many crazy mistakes, but also to give you an opportunity to learn from their wisdom. So I was very blessed to be in that situation, and just kept moving from there.
So what was it like working under Mayor White administration? Everybody, Mike was, excuse me, I ain't gonna call him Mayor Mike White. And I call him because he actually grew up on my street.
Right.
So I actually knew him. So he actually, what it was like working under his administration? They say he was a really tough mayor, but he got a lot of stuff done.
Well, and I think that's the thing. I think if you were looking for someone to take on a charge and to be able to try to find ways to get things done, that was your guy.
Okay.
If you wanted to be in an environment where you could learn and to be able to see what it means to be committed to the people and committed to the cause, that was a place to be. So I learned a lot about just how to be a professional and how to understand when you have these type of positions that you try to do the best you can for the people you're here to serve.
And so in that, you worked with the city about how many years you was there?
It was about 13 years.
Wow. Okay. 13 years. You did most of his time because he was there, 12 years or so?
He was there 12. So I started a little bit before he came in, and I left when he left.
Oh, okay. And so then that transitioned you into CMHA?
Yep. I came over to CMHA as the Human Resources Director. I was in that position for a few years, and then I was a Deputy Executive Director, and then I became Chief of Staff of Operations. And then finally I moved into this position.
So you had basically worked your way up through CMHA and through that whole process of understanding everything to get to the director. Who was the director before you?
Terry Hamilton Brown
That's
was
correct.
there, and then George Phillips Olivier was there also.
Okay, all right. Now you move into CMHA, and now you're the director, and you're running everything over there. What was it like coming in the door your first years there?
Oh, it was tough. You're learning a lot. There's such a need. There's so many things that need to be done. And you want to try to be able to do everything, but you don't always have all the resources to do everything that needs to be done. So you just try to be as patient as you can, but also be as understanding and compassionate as you can, and try to find ways to get as many things done as you can. And that's what I've tried to do.
So let's talk about I guess the word I'm looking for is the mentality, or just the type of people. And when we say type of people, we're going to say people of low income and people like that who need help, who's struggling or just trying to make it the next day or get to a point where I want to start here to get to there. The people that work and live, and part is mainly a lot of the makeup of the folks that go through CMHA. Having the compassion and the understanding and the ability to work with those people and keeping that in mind every day is something that's important. So how was that adjustment for you getting to that and working under that environment?
I think coming from the city, I was already there working with Mayor White and the administration. That's I think the mentality of a lot of the people that worked there at that time. So coming to CMHA, it was the same thing. I think that there's a lot of stigmas, a lot of perceptions that people have about why people are there and all of that. And you find that people are people.
Exactly.
And you find a lot of people who are in our housing for a lot of different reasons. You know, a significant number of residents that live in housing are seniors. And a lot of those seniors are people who have worked, who have had careers, who have been successful, and they have decided, okay, I don't need a house. I don't want to do this. I just want to have a place to stay, and I'm on a fixed income, and I want something that will work for me. And CMHA has worked for that, for them for that. There are other people who are raising families and things like that and want to be able to have a place where they can raise their family and be able to grow and things like that. So we provide that type of housing opportunity for folks. As we have one property called Griot Village, where it's a property where we have seniors who have legal custody of children. And it's a site of 40 units that just provides that opportunity for those seniors to take care of their grandchildren or nieces and nephews that they have guardianship over. So there's just not one type of person, one type of class. There's multiple types of people, and there are a lot of people who are wanting, desiring, and wanting to be able to move on and have other opportunities. And I want to try to hopefully be able to provide some mechanisms for them to be able to do that.
Just getting into what everything you guys provide down there is such a big thing to swallow and try to get it all under. So I'm gonna just tell me about some of the stuff that's going on there that CMHA that you're really excited about and proud of right now.
Well, I think probably the thing that we're working on right now is really trying to find ways to connect our residents through our digital inclusion initiative. So we're trying to provide free or low cost internet access in a lot of our sites, particularly our high rises. So we partner with folks like Digital C, folks like Spectrum, some other groups to be able to give people internet access. It's very tough sometimes when you look at how technology is affecting people, and particularly in a pandemic where so many things shut down, and even folks who had medical appointments needed to be able to have access. You don't have that internet, you don't have that connectivity.
Exactly.
And you need to be able to have that at home. The internet is no longer something that is an extra. It's something that has become essential. So we wanted to try to find ways to get people connected. That's been very important for us. But we're trying to create programs for resident self-sufficiency to help people be able to go on and get their GEDs if they need that, go on to get other type of job training and put them in better positions to be able to find folks that may want to go on to get additional educational opportunities. Now, we don't always have all the funding to be able to do everyone, but we do try to work with funding we get ourselves and also try to connect other people to that funding through our resident services department.
Yeah, because we worked with you guys in doing some employment, trying to reach out with Ohio Means Jobs and trying to work. It was a literacy bus, I believe it is, that you guys have that come through there. And we partnered with you guys with the literacy bus with you guys to try to help residents down there. I also work with Lillian Davis.
Yes.
And Miss Jolly.
Yes.
And known them for eons. In fact, Mayor Jackson introduced me to them about, hell, man, it had to be almost 10, 15 years ago. He had told me, he said, I'm going to introduce you to CMHA Best Kept Secret. And back then it was Miss Davis, and I met her and Miss Jolly, and always worked out. They helped me with a lot of projects and help us with a lot of canvassing, voter registration programs and things of that nature.
Well, that's the backbone of the agency, is the residents. And we have historically had a group of residents that are called the Progressive Action Council, and that's the group that Ms. Davis leads. And they're very engaged in a lot of the activities that we have. So a lot of these programs and initiatives that we come up with are things that we work and discuss with the residents and hopefully try to get them to be as much of a part of it. But Lillian is one who has always been very active, very passionate, very committed.
Very vocal.
Very vocal. You want that. You want people who are going to engage in constructive dialogue to make things better. And that's what I think Ms. Davis does.
It's very important, especially when you're in an environment like that, what's happening there. And what I mean by that is sometimes you need people that's always speaking out. And people, because sometimes it falls on deaf ears if nobody knows. So it's always good to have somebody that's going to always speak out and is going to really fight for people. And Ms. Davis has always been somebody in that regards, whether I agree with her most of the time or not.
Right.
Because I can tell you that, because we don't always agree. But she's always been good to me. So I want to put shouts out to her. So let's talk a little bit about one of the things I have seen that's going on there that's a big improvement is that over the years, the way we used to call the jets now versus the way you go down there now and you look at it is totally, when you ride over there off of Woodland and you turn into there where all of that has been redeveloped and now everything look like more townhouses versus the really red looking brick and the green doors and that kind of thing. So let's talk a little bit about your new development and stuff that you guys are doing down there.
We're working hard with that. CMHA was the first chartered housing authority back in 1933. A lot of our developments, especially our family developments, started back in the late 30s, 1938, 39, going into the 40s. And historically, what you've done is you just tried to continue to keep those facilities functioning, where you're able to try to maintain them. But over time, there's only so much that you can do. So we've been trying to methodically go through and identify sites that we can be able to have some level of improvement. So if you go over to, used to be Garden Valley, is now called Heritage View on Kinsman. That was a project that we've done over the last, I want to say 5-6 years. And we really done a lot in terms of making a few townhouses, a few mid-level apartment buildings. And it really has, I think, had a good impact in terms of providing a different level of housing in the community. Go ahead.
On that note, I was going to tell you that, and I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
But on that note, I wanted to say that when that development was going on, I was going up to Burt Bell Carr, and I was taking cooking lessons there because they had that kitchen there and you can cook in there. And the interesting thing, and the reason why I mention that is that I know from just talking to folks and being a part of that Burt Bell Carr worked really hard with the residents of that area over there to make sure that they were a part of the development with the library, the kitchen, the restaurant that was there, employing people there and making sure all of that work and working with the building of the garden that they were doing and supplying vegetables for the residents and stuff. I saw that firsthand working, Jeff. So
there's so many things that project brought along. It could really connect the folks that were in our housing and folks that weren't. If you would have went down that block 20 years ago and looked at it, you would not recognize it as the same block now.
If you would have went down that.
Yeah.
Keeping it real, if you would have went down there. And part of that, changing the name of everything, is what gives everything a new light, because that name whoa, you going down.
And a group of residents took that. They came up with that name. And it was interesting because they chose the name Heritage View because while there was a lot of connotation with what was, there still was a belief that they did not want to walk away from that. They wanted to preserve the heritage. So they chose Heritage View. We've got a site on the west side called Riverside Park, which is near the airport. And we are in a process of concluding some of our development there. Down on 30th, between 30th and 24th off of Cedar. We redeveloped some sites down there on a site called Sankofa Village.
Yes.
And so we're doing that. We got some good partnerships with the Cleveland Housing Network and some other partners where they're going to be building a scholar down there. Well, Scholar House is an opportunity for people who are going to be enrolled in school that have children, a place for them to be able to live down there, and CMHA will provide the subsidy for those families to be able to be there. And they're provided a lot of different types of supportive services
for the kids
and things like for the folks. Yeah, so it's going to be cool. And CHN and United Way and CDOGC, new name is slipping my mind, but Step Forward with Dr. Chisholm.
Yes.
They are a strong partner in that, and it's exciting to see that. We've got great partnerships with the Cleveland Public Library down here, and we've also, when we redeveloped that site, we partnered with Care Alliance, and Care Alliance put a new health clinic right there on the corner.
Really?
So it's really cool to see some of these things come together, but the need is so great that while you're doing these things, you still can take a moment to say, wow, this is good, but you can't stop because there's so much more that needs to be done. And that's what we're, looking at now. Woodhill is our next development. So we received a $35 million grant, Choice Neighborhood grant for redeveloping Woodhill Estates.
Excellent.
And so that is where we're devoting a lot of our resources and our efforts now to redevelop that property.
Give me some background on what's going to go there and what type of housing and what are you actually
We're
going
going to be looking at doing townhouses. We're going to look at spreading the site out. So we've got some other land that we've acquired that we're going to be able to rebuild on and give residents that are at that site, the current site, an opportunity to be able to move into some of these other locations. Then we're going to go up and we're going to demolish that whole property and we're going to rebuild that property in a mixed income way where there'll be affordable housing opportunities. There should be some home ownership opportunities and there'll be some other opportunities for people to be able to live and grow there. And then we're also working with the city and other groups to try to look at businesses and making sure that there are businesses to help support and be able to enhance that area as we move.
You just said something. You talked about home ownership. Now, that's something that I know I kind of knew but didn't really understand. Talk a little bit. So you can.
That's a program right now that we want to try to reinitiate.
Okay.
So we're in the process now of bringing somebody on board to help lead in that area. There are mechanisms through HUD that I believe you can take steps to be able to get that home ownership. I know that the secretary is very committed to wanting to provide those opportunities for folks to be able to have that home ownership. So that is something that we are going to be sticking both feet into and start to move. As it relates to Woodhill, it would be building those as we begin to go and creating a process where people will be able to have some of those opportunities, or just the fact that you start building new housing. Other people who have other housing will look at that and say, either I need to try to refinance or redo my home, or I may take this as an opportunity to have others come in, take vacant land and be able to build housing, because now it's an investment as well.
Exactly.
So that's what we're looking to do. That's the partnerships that we're looking to have. We have a developer called the Community Builders that is a part of that process. So we're real excited about that. But while a lot of communities have we have a Woodhill, we have a Outhwaite, we have a Lakeview, we have a King Kennedy, we have a Carver Park. So we want to try our best to find ways to do what we can at each of those different family sites while still trying to find ways to improve our senior and high-rise development.
So you have a total, I think I read something like 55,000 resident houses.
When you touch the include the voucher program, we have about 10,500 affordable housing units. And then we issue about 15,500 housing choice vouchers. So when you combine those numbers and you look at the compositions of the families, we serve in total over 55,000 people across Cuyahoga County.
And providing wraparound services to those folks, I imagine, is a great deal.
And that's one of the things that's changed over the past. We provide some of those wraparound services, but our key is to connect with valuable partners that can use us to help connect them with the residents that are out there.
All right, that's good. That's good. I had saw in one of the documents I was reading that you guys were looking to do some more expand outside of the Woodhill project that you got, and I think it's the King Kennedy.
We're looking at doing some things at Carver Park.
Okay.
We're doing some things, going to do some different things at King Kennedy. And we're also going to be doing some different things down at Cedar.
Okay.
So we've worked on one slither at Cedar. So we're doing what I call 3 master plans.
Okay.
So we have a master plan for Lakeview Estates, a master plan for Cedar Estates, and a master plan for Outhwaite Estates. That's the first step to getting to where Woodhill is.
Okay.
So you go through, you do what you call community engagement. You sit down with the residents, you sit down with the stakeholders, you say, what do we want to see here? What do we want to do here? How do we want to build here? You put together a nice plan, you look at what it would cost, and then you go out and you try to seek funding for it. And like I said, with Woodhill, after one previous attempt where we weren't successful, we were able to get that grant. And so we're really excited about it. And again, the grant was earned by the residents and their ability to be engaged and be supportive and to help us pull something together.
That program with the Woodhill, is that a program that Josh Perkins is working with you guys on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what is the program? He's actually was supposed to have been here the day before we had the big storm. So we had to cancel. So he was going to come in and give us some background, but he's still coming. But you give us a little bit of.
Well, I think what they're going to be doing is they're going to be working to try to create community engagement and community presence in the work that comes from being a part of that project.
Wow.
So there's going to be a lot of opportunities for people in the community and residents to hopefully be able to work as part of that project in different forms.
Correct.
And so I believe one of the functions that I think he's going to have is trying to assist in being able to do that.
And I wanted to ask you this. From the time you got there up until now, what is your biggest challenge that you think you overcome? And I know you got more to come, but you say, you know what, man, when I walked in the door, I knew this is what I was dealing with, but I was happy when I was able to at least this happen.
I'm a conservative guy. And I won't count anything as being done until I'm done, because stuff always comes back. I can tell you, we have worked very hard. I had a great staff, great team, but every time we get somewhere on something, there's 10 other things in line for us to work on. So for me, I think the biggest thing that I've probably been able to do is to try to create a culture where we understand that you just can't go in and fix something and think that, okay, we're done. There's always work to do. There's always stuff that we need to do. And we always got to try to get better, because the people we serve deserve that effort for us. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to be perfect. Doesn't mean that we're going to be able to do everything. But it does mean that we should be trying. And
I
that's
had a
what
chance to go to the building where your home office is and had an opportunity to walk through there. Really nice building.
We moved into that building June 20th, 2011.
Oh,
so I think we just turned 10 years old last year.
Yeah, they looked almost brand new. Everything in there was real nice and clean, and I loved the way. But what I was most impressed by is this. You told me it was
we're LEED Silver certified for that building.
Okay.
We also have about 4,300 solar panels on the back of the site that we have out there to help provide energy to move the building. We came there before we came to that building, they had everything spread out. So we were on West 25th, we were on Hamilton. So a lot of our operation was all spread out. So if you were a client and you needed to see us, sometimes you would have to go to a couple different buildings. Outside of, if you are a resident at a property, it's a one-stop shop now. You can come to our central office campus, and that's where you can do business for both the public housing program as well as the Housing Choice Voucher program. And then we also now have our, modernization and development, construction department there as well, our legal folks. So you get an opportunity to do it, and it's in a good location. A lot of times people take those type of administrative offices and they move them out in a while. We put ours right in the heart of the city, in the heart, right within probably 3 to 5 miles of the vast majority of the properties that we serve. And it's worked out well for us. It was large enough space that it provides parking for people that want to come down. And even as we start to transition more to doing things more electronically, I think it's still a need for people to be able to have some of that connectivity, to be able to communicate with people. And while the pandemic has had an impact on that, we still want to be able to get back to being able to have a little bit more of that interaction.
The properties that you guys are building, and are you guys making those LEED certified buildings as well, or how you guys?
We will make them, they have different levels.
Okay.
And so we will always make them as sustainable as we can. We will always try to make them meet, in some cases, what they call enterprise green standards and things like that. So we try to do that wherever we can. The price tag gets adjusted, but sometimes if you're able to find grant opportunities that will pay for those types of enhancements, sometimes you can meet those standards because you're able to do it. A lot of times you'll be in other projects where it's required that you do it. So you have to assume the cost of doing that. So we're excited. Anytime we get a chance to do something like that, it's cool. And it's a good learning experience for the solar panels. So sometimes we would have some of our meet with some of the kids and take the kids back there and walk them through and talk about what it is, why it's there, what the impact of it is. And for people to be able to see it right there in front of them is pretty cool.
As it relates to some of the programs you guys offer, such as cooking classes, educational classes, and those kind of things, what are some of the other programs you are trying to push that you think is your residents can really take advantage of? That
I think that some of the computer courses that we have, those where we take people through learning about social media, learning about just how to use the internet, those have been very effective, and it's cool to watch people go through those programs and see people who were scared of computers when they started off.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden embrace them.
Yes.
And it's cool to be able to see people to use the computers for the purpose of putting in job applications, making medical appointments, things like that. But also to see them be able to connect with their grandkids and be able to do Facebook and do LinkedIn and things like that, where they are now a part of the lives of those kids, and they don't have to necessarily be there with them. They have a good way of connecting with them. So it's cool to see things like that. The cooking classes that you mentioned, those were pretty good too, because I think what they showed a lot of people is, you could cook good food different ways. And you could cook healthy food good ways. And some of it is just about substitute. Maybe you don't necessarily use this, but you use this. But you could still season it and hook it up. And it's still going to taste good, but it's going to be a little bit better for you than if you use these ingredients. And again, watching the process of when people hear something or do something and experience something that maybe they had not thought about before, watching that experience is pretty cool.
So let's talk a little bit about how the pandemic, how that affected. And I know that with the senior housing that you guys had there and some of the senior buildings, and even in some of the estates that you guys have outside of that, where you have a lot of people coming in and out and those things, how was you guys able to handle that? And what was that like going through that?
I'll say first, it was very tough. It was very tough, and we're not out of it by any stretches of the imagination. But it was truly something that was unpredictable. I don't think that you could sit down and have a plan for what we've been through the last 2 years. I was very fortunate and very blessed to have a lot of committed people who still came to work. Completely shut our doors during the pandemic. We adjusted some hours. We modified what we did, but we felt it was important enough for us to maintain a presence for the people we serve. And so we tried to find different ways to do things, but it's just had it's had an effect on what is your level of expectation and what is your level of patience. And understanding that this is going to have long-term effects in terms of just how people interact with people. You got people now who are scared to come out.
Correct.
They're just uncomfortable being around people.
And so that kind of, were you guys able to get the necessary PPE out to folks? And I know they were doing those food giveaways, but they were doing them down at the Muni lot.
Yeah, we were able to work with the food bank. Shout out to them. They were able to come out to some of our sites, and we had staff kind of get people there. It was a challenge because again, you're still not trying to create a big crowd, but you need to get people this food. So we were able to work with that. We had great groups like Care Alliance and some others that helped us provide COVID testing, but also COVID vaccines. We've worked with our employees to get our employees and encourage our employees to get vaccinated, as well as our residents.
So you constantly, I guess, at this point, is still trying to getting the message out through the residents about getting vaccinated. And
we're gonna probably in another week or so even ramp up a little bit more, because it's important. There are too many things that need to be done that you can't not do them. And but you still need to want to be able to do them safely. And so it's important for people to take this seriously. It's not that anybody's trying to tell anybody what to do or any of that stuff, but it is trying to make sure that we keep as many people as we can safe and protected. And that's why, I feel giving people those opportunities, people want to talk about the vaccine if they want to try to get a better understanding of it. and things like that, they could talk to their doctor, or we could arrange for them to talk to some medical person that we may have relationships with to talk with people, but just to get people comfortable so we can be able to get in there and to support them. The mental health challenges that have just already been challenging throughout the community are amplified by the lack of connectivity and just how people have progressed in different directions, or their conditions have deteriorated in different directions since the onset of this pandemic. And you still haven't completely been able to pull the blanket back to see everything that you're dealing with.
Exactly. Because it's still, like you say, there's more to come. We don't know what direction it's going to go in next, and we have to be prepared for that. So I'm glad to hear that you guys are doing it. Let's go to this one. Here goes a big one. I live in Cleveland Heights, and when I first moved out there to Cleveland Heights, believe it or not, there was a thing they were going around putting out that they wanted people who were on Section 8 to take a class on
Charm school.
Charm school.
Yeah.
Yeah, charm
school.
What do you think of it? That's a bad, you talk about stigma. All right. Now, the voucher program catch that stigma. Now, I was a landlord in the city of Cleveland for several years, had a bunch of units and everything, and managed units. And I have my experience with Section 8, good and bad. And when I say good and bad, some of it was good, bad with the tenants, and some of it was good, bad with the agent. But it like I said, it's good and bad. So what do you say to these cities and people who like to have this charm school and that kind of thing?
Well, I think that, I'll step away from the charm school. And what I'll say is, if your intentions is to provide information and resources about the community that folks are moving into, and you want to let them know guidelines, processes, and procedures and things like that, and you're doing that for all rentals and all people,
right?
I think it's a great idea. I support it 110%, because I do think that there are certain things if you're bringing people into a community, you do want people to understand, okay, here's what it is, here's where this is, here's where this is, here's how we do this, here's how we do that. That's great. But you don't just classify one specific group of individuals. If you want to say that's for renters, that's for renters. If you want to say it's for new homeowners, that's for new homeowners, because the information that I think that you're sharing is probably something that everybody needs and everybody will want to hear. But you don't have to put it under the auspices of something that comes off as being derogatory or stigmatizing a group of people or a group of individuals.
Now, and as it relates to that and people, is there a certain time of the year when you guys do take those voucher, or when you can apply for a Section 8?
Well, one of the things that we did over the pandemic is we used to have it, we would have one lottery. And you would come in and it'd be for a couple of days, and we have about 40,000 people apply. We pick 10,000 names, and then we'd have that list for 3 years.
Correct.
Now you actually could go online and you could apply for the voucher program anytime you like. And you will stay on that list for, I believe, 18 months. And then if you reapply, you can stay on there again, and we just go through and we just pull, constantly pulling. And that was one of the things one of the technological advances that we did during the pandemic to try to make it easier for people to apply, and to try not to have it where a group of people get hope and a group of people get the disappointment, and there's a large gap in between that time. So there's more of a cycle, and it gives people the opportunity to electronically be able to go in and update their information, which to me is key and essential. A lot of times people apply, then they move, or they go do this, they go do that. They call your name, they're sending you information, but they send it to some place that's not there. So I think it's critical for people to always find ways to come in and update their information. They can do it online. They could come in and we could show them how to do it at our site as well.
All right, Jeff, I want you to take time, a little opportunity here to talk about your staff and some of the people that's under you. And because my intentions is to have some more of your staff members or some of the other directors who run some of these programs that you guys have there. Because like I say, you have quite a bit of them. And we'll be able to get into the weeds of some of those programs, let people know more about them, let people know more of what's going on down there as it relates to that. But give me like your chief of staff and let me know who you all got working over there.
Our chief of staff is and special counsel to the CEO is a gentleman's name is Jeffery Wade. He is outstanding professional, worked in risk management. He's an attorney. He's done a good job. He's someone who I think really is committed to what we do. Mm-hmm. We have Sharonda Greer. She's our director of asset management. Mm-hmm. So she's responsible for all of the properties and all of the different sites. And she has a deputy director, Lisa Lindsay, who assists her in doing that. Mm-hmm. So if you want to know about what goes on at the various properties, mm-hmm. she's the person. We have Heather Gaines, mm-hmm. who is our director of the Housing Choice Voucher Program. Okay. So she is someone who could talk a little bit about how the voucher program works. Okay. We created a special area for special vouchers, like what we call vouchers, which are vouchers that we provide to provide housing for veterans, or the vouchers for out of youth that have aged out of foster care, mm-hmm. things like that. So we have some special vouchers. Doravette Nolan handles those, and she would definitely be someone that could come in. And we also received a grant for a housing mobility program, and that housing mobility will allow us to give people the opportunity to move out into different communities, mm-hmm. and we would be able to provide them with the vouchers to be able to go live in some of those communities and things like that. So mm-hmm. we just received that grant last year, and we'll just be kicking that off in the next few months. So she'd probably be a good person to come in and talk about that. Mm-hmm. And finally, we have Matt Schmidt, who is our interim director of modernization and development. And he's the one who was coordinating a lot of the master planning and mm-hmm. activities and development activities at our sites. And CMHA does have its own police department. And so that would be Chief Gonzalez. And Chief Gonzalez can come in and talk a little bit about some of the things that the police department is doing to try to improve mm-hmm. and continue to try to provide the safest environment that they can.
You know, you said something that hit me, a foster program you have for the kids aging out of foster care. Mm-hmm. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
We work with the county mm-hmm. to try to identify folks that are aging out that don't have any place to go, mm-hmm. and we can provide them with subsidy vouchers mm-hmm. to be able to go and find housing in other areas. Mm-hmm. That's very tough.
Yeah, I know. That's why I wanted to.
But yeah, it can be done. So if folks are interested in that, they need to talk with their caseworker at the county, and they can talk with our folks. Mm-hmm. And we don't have 1 million of those vouchers, but we do have some, and we may be able to create some good housing opportunities.
That's just folks. A tough position to be in, aging out of foster care, because you're 18.
Yeah.
And so now you're on your own, and even if you had a voucher that would even give you that paid your rent for a year or so, it's like you're 18 and you're on your own. Literally, you're on your own. That got to be really, really.
And I don't say this in a bad way, but you don't realize what being 18 means sometimes until you're 30, 32. Right. When you're younger, sometimes you're caught up in a moment of just trying to do. Mm-hmm. And then when you get a little older and you look back on it, you say, wow, I was really trying to do, but I was just banging on the wrong. You get a little bit more perspective. So it's good to create opportunities where you can help people be able to see some things that maybe they didn't see, or maybe they just didn't have folks to help them mm-hmm. do that. That's one of those programs that's happened, as well as the Voucher program, which tries to provide some housing opportunities for people who have served our country.
Right.
And that's very important. And it's good when we're able to connect with people and work with the VA to be able to make that happen.
All right, Jeff, hey, man, I wanted to thank you for coming out to the show, man. You did a great job today. You gave me enough information about the organization. We're going to have people who are going to have questions, and we'll get those back to you.
Okay.
Also, I wanted to let you know again, I really look forward to having some of your directors and other folks to come out. We want to use this as a vehicle to be able to get information out to the people and talk about various different programs and new things. So, but right now, what I want you to do, I want you to move your microphone out the way there. just slide it on out the way, get it on out the way, and then that's your camera right there, man. Take a chance to look into the camera, tell everybody your name and what's happening at CMHA. So it's on you.
Well, thank you. First, I just want to thank Ken for giving me an opportunity to come out here today and to be able to speak. I will say that, CMHA is an organization that, has its challenges, just like most. I think we have good, committed people. We're looking for more. So I encourage people that if you see opportunities that you're interested in, to please, come out and join our team. We're looking to try to find ways to build and improve. I think that, we're excited that we have a secretary that is in DC that understands our community, that understands the work that needs to be done. And we're looking forward to trying to find ways to partner, collaborate, to continue to put Cleveland on a path to success. There's just so many different challenges in terms of housing that's out there. And a lot of the housing that we have is older housing. So it's trying to find ways to secure funding, to repair some of the housing that we do have, but also be able to continue to create some of the new housing opportunities that we have in the past. I think with the voucher program, it's trying to find and work with landlords and people to try to be willing to create these opportunities for people to be able to go into different communities. And as such, we all have our responsibilities, both the landlords as well as the tenants. And rather than being adversarial, I think we all want to be able to work together, including the housing authority and including our responsibility to try to do what we can to try to make the process not as cumbersome, but to try to make the process one that can be effective. So I enjoy being here today. I enjoy having an opportunity to come in and talk about some of the things that we do. And I look forward to continuing to try to do some good things and try to make CMHA a vehicle that people can be able to use to get to whatever point in life that they want to go to. So thank you.
And hit subscribe and the like button. See you the next time.